Let's get started. I'm Rob D'Amico with Big Green Egg, and today I have two briskets sitting in front of me. One is a full packer. What that means is you have the flat and the point. The higher end here is a point, and it's where the two muscles come together. We'll show you that here in a second. Right here is the flat. This is the flat where it's just the flat. It's the point's already cut off of it, and it's a tough piece of meat. So what you have to do is, in this case, we're gonna low and slow cook this thing, and we're going to smoke it around 225, and it'll take about 12 to 14 hours here. This is a 12-pound brisket here, and when we trim it, it'll get down closer to 10, and this flat right here is about 10 pounds. When we trim this will probably be about 9 pounds, maybe a little higher, because we don't have that much to take off of this one. This one's already pretty much trimmed out. We do got to take some of the silver skin off that you'll see here in a second. So let's get started with trimming this. I'm going to start with the packer first. And on the front here, you can see that we do have some fat. We're just going to get rid of all this fat. You'll see that some of this fat is a lot thinner and it's like silver skin. We're just going to get rid of that. But then you're going to find some fat that's really hard and tough. You want to get all that off of here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start cutting that out and getting it down to where you can see the meat. You can use a regular chef's knife if you want, but I like using a boning knife because it bends a little bit, gives you a little better angles with the silver skin. It's easier to get under there and take off really thin pieces, which is really good because then you're not taking chunks out. But don't worry, if you get down to some of these spots and you take a little chunk out, it's okay. It's not going to ruin anything. You don't have to be perfect on this. All right, now you can see once we get all this fat out of the way, you can see that there's obviously a grain pattern right here. You can see the grain going this way. And sometimes when you get at the end of the cook and there's a lot of bark on here, you won't be able to see which way the grain is going as easily. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. So here's a pro trick for you. You follow that grain and obviously you cut across the grain. So we're gonna cut a chunk off of this side right here just to show that side is where we're actually going to start our cutting on the flat because the grain goes this way. Just a little pro tip for you. Then the other one is see this right here? You get a little of this discoloration in the fat and meat right here. We're going to trim that off as well. Plus it helps square everything off, and then you can see the actually really good marbling in the meat, and it also gives you a better view of the fat cap in there, which I'll show you here in a second. So you can see it in here. We're just cutting off this discoloration. Exposing more of the fat cap, which we're about ready to flip over and start cutting that. Some people like to leave it on, but you'll feel that there's hard spots in it. You want to get the hard spots out. And then with the softer side, which is getting on the thinner side of the meat, you want to get that down to about 1/4 inch. And some people say 1/8, but I like to keep it on 1/4. Again, I'm going to cook this so it renders down. And don't worry if you see a spot like that where you went too far, that's okay. Again, we're not doing this as a competition. This is for the backyard, and we're having some friends and family over, so it does not have to be perfect. Trust me, they're going to enjoy it. All right, now that we got all of our brisket trimmed up, we got the packer all trimmed out, we got some of the fat that's been connected in here. We also did our corner cut, so we know where the grain is. We also did it on our flat, got all the nice silver skin off of there. We kept some of the fat on the back on this one, but this one's pretty good and trimmed up. So we're gonna add these on the egg. First though, we're gonna get them seasoned. Basically, when you season these, you only have to use salt and pepper. We got a little half and half, 50-50 salt and pepper, and I also put a little garlic powder in there as well. So I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna coat it really thick. But again, this is mostly just salt, 50-50 salt and pepper. I'm just gonna get on there. You can put some olive oil on here if you wanted to. We're not going to, we don't have to. You want to get a good coating. You want to get both sides, and you want to get the edges. Almost done seasoning these, and then we're going to set it up on the egg indirect at 225 degrees. And I do have my Egg Genius set up. So it'll help run and keep that temperature for me throughout the entire cook, because then I can set it and have the meat go off with an alarm at about 165, because at that point, I'm now going to wrap it once it gets to that point. Okay, that looks about good. So now, again, we're going to stick this on the egg. We're set up with some pecan smoking chips and chunks you can put in there. I prefer chunks if you can get them, because they're a bigger piece of wood that's going to sit in there and smoke. You don't have to add anything, because we are, with the Big Green Egg charcoal, we do have oak and hickory already in there. You can add mesquite if you want. To me, it's too much if you ask me. I'm not a guy that likes a lot of smoke, but I will add some pecan, a little sweetness in there to give it a little taste. We're also going to put in, we have our indirect setup here with our expander basket, our half moon baking stones, and we also have the aluminum foil pan in here. And I'm just going to pour some beer in here, because that's going to help keep moisture in the egg and in the meat. But again, this fat's going to render right into this beer. Oh, and this is going to taste absolutely fantastic. So let me get these on here. Beautiful. We're going to let those cook to about an internal temperature of about 165. Then we're going to remove them and wrap them in our Big Green Egg butcher paper. Let's let this cook, smoke slow and low, 250 degrees, 225, somewhere in there. Egg Genius is going to keep us up to temp, and they're going to keep an eye on the meat and let us know when it's all ready to get wrapped. Our brisket has been on our egg about 7-8 hours right now at about 225. We kept it nice and slow and low using our Egg Genius. Right now we're going to use some of our pink butcher paper. We got it laid out here. We're going to transfer this, but I got to make sure that the briskets are up to temp at about 164 to 168, somewhere in between there. We just want to make sure that the temperature is ready to be pulled and wrapped, and we got a nice bark on this. So let's take a look. Burp the egg. Going to use our instant read thermometer. And we are at 161.3. That's good for me. I'm going to use our silicone mitts here, because now I can just take the meat and grab it right off the grill. Oh yeah, listen to that. And put it right here in the middle. Don't forget, it's got to be nice and tight. We want to make this, wrap this nice and tight. We're going to set this back on the egg. We're going to do the same for the second one. Okay, now that our second one's wrapped, we're going to put them back on here. And again, once they get to around 167, 165, somewhere in there, you get to what's called a stall. And that stall is the opportunity you want to take to wrap it all in there, keep all that moisture inside, and let it finish its cook to about 205, and then we'll check it. So let's let this smoke about another few hours here, and we'll come back and check it when it's up to 205. Okay, we've been keeping an eye on our brisket. We're about 203, 205. I'm going to check the temperature, and if we're sitting at that temperature, what you like to do, and I'm going to show you this, is using the instant read thermometer. You stick it. Oh yeah, look at that. 203, 79, 204. This one's ready to pull. So we're going to pull this one out. We'll just set it here for right now. Shut the egg. What we're going to do is we're going to put these in a cooler, let them rest for about 40 minutes, and then we're going to slice into them. Okay, we just pulled these out of the cooler. They've been in there for about 40 minutes. Now we're going to open this up, and they're still going to be hot. We're going to open this up and then cut into them. And today we're using our disposable cutting board because we don't want all the juices running all over the place. I actually want to collect them because when I start to serve this, put it on the plate, I'm going to pour those juices on top, and all I got to do is pick up my nice disposable cutting board here, and it'll dump all the fluid onto the plate. So let's open this up and see what we got here. This is like Christmas Day. Oh my gosh, look at that bark and the jiggle. Woo, and it is still very hot. Look at it jiggling. That's good stuff right there. And a nice bark on there. You can see the grain. So we're going to cut going across the grain. Look at that. That's beautiful. Oh yeah. So here is our flat that we had, and this is our packer. You can see we're going to cut this off right here, and it'll literally slice down in here. That'll take the point off, and that'll leave your flat right here. And then we're going to serve this up, and we're going to do burnt ends with the point here. So let me just get started on this one here, because I'm just going to cut it down right where the seam is. That's why I cut out all that fat, because now I know exactly where the point separates from the flat. And you can see it's that simple. Well, look how juicy that is. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. So we're going to put this one aside, and then we're going to slice these up. And you want a nice pencil thick slice. And I can tell you that this is still very, very warm. I don't know if you can hear those juices, but that is incredible. Here's another way to tell that it's done. Right there.